The story of what happened was not talked about for a time. People did not argue about it in public. They did not shout at each other. They did not talk to the press about it. There was a private letter that said some very harsh things. John Wayne did not like one of Clint Eastwood's movies. He made sure Clint Eastwood knew about it. This is interesting because John Wayne was not the kind of person who usually complained in public or got into fights with people or wrote letters to other actors. He only did things like that when something really bothered him. This whole thing makes you wonder about some things. The situation with John Wayne and Clint Eastwood raises questions. What made the actor closely associated with the traditional Western feel personally offended by Clint Eastwood's movie? This is a story about who gets to decide what the American West really means. It is also about identity. The American West is a part of this story. John Wayne represented something clear. His stories had heroes that you knew were bad guys that you knew were bad. There was always an idea of what was honorable. Clint Eastwood came from a place. His stories are full of doubt and uncertainty. The American West, in his movies, is not always simple or clear. This is why John Wayne and Clint Eastwood saw the American West in different ways. Clint Eastwood's movie made John Wayne feel like his idea of the American West was being challenged. Years later, Clint Eastwood finally explained what had happened between him and John Wayne. When the two perspectives met, the clash was quiet. It was very precise. The perspectives coming together like that caused a clash. The clash was quiet. It was also very precise when those two perspectives met. In 1973, Clint Eastwood made his Western movie, and it was really different and harsh. The story was not about how great the frontier was. It actually questioned the frontier. The movie did not show people living in the town or police officers who always did the right thing or a hero who saved the day. What the movie really looked at was when people fail and do things. John Wayne watched the movie. He got very angry. He was not angry because the movie was not good, because he thought Clint Eastwood's Western movie did something very wrong. Clint Eastwood's Western movie went against what John Wayne believed in. Years later, Eastwood said that the letter from Wayne really surprised him. It was not the criticism that surprised Eastwood. What the letter showed about Wayne. The problem was not about one movie. It was two different generations with different ideas about the American West. One generation made up stories about the American West, and the other generation looked at these stories, said they were not true. This makes you wonder. When someone famous tells you that you are wrong, do you listen to them? Change what you are doing, or do you keep going and do what you think is right? The American West is still a topic, and people like Eastwood and Wayne have different opinions about it. The American West is a part of history that people still talk about today. Eastwood answered that question quietly and deliberately. He thought about what he was going to say. His decision had an impact on the future of Western cinema. Eastwood's choice changed the way people made movies. The future of cinema was different because of Eastwood. That year, Eastwood started directing High Plains Drifter. He did this on purpose to move away from the Western movie style. From the beginning of the film, you can tell it is not going to show a view of life in the Old West. The story is about a town in the desert that feels bad about something that happened a long time ago. The people who live in the town do not like to talk about it. A time ago, the people in the town saw something very bad happen. They saw the marshal, the person who was supposed to keep them safe, get hurt and killed. The people in the town chose to do nothing because they were scared. They picked being safe over being brave. The town is still feeling guilty about what happened to the marshal in High Plains Drifter. When a mysterious stranger shows up, people are hoping this person will keep them safe. It feels like the stranger is judging them instead of helping them. The main character, played by Eastwood, does not give talks about what is right or wrong. He just shows that people who are scared are not good, and he gets angry with people who are weak. The stranger does not act like a hero you see in Western movies. John Wayne watched High Plains Drifter. He was very upset by it. Throughout his career, John Wayne played characters like settlers and lawmen who were people dealing with tough situations in his movies. Westerns meant a lot to him. They were about being responsible, having courage, and what it means to be a part of the country. Eastwood's film, in John Wayne's opinion, took away the things about that identity. Westerns were supposed to be about values, but Eastwood's film changed that according to John Wayne. Wayne wrote a letter to Eastwood. In the letter, Wayne told Eastwood that he was really disappointed in the movie High Plains Drifter. He said that High Plains Drifter did not show the people who settled the American West in a way. Wayne thought the movie showed a negative side of life in the Old West. Wayne was upset about this because he thought it was a matter of right and wrong. He believed that movies about the West should be respectful to the people who lived then. Eastwood said that Wayne did not like High Plains Drifter at all. Eastwood was okay with that. He knew that he and Wayne just had ideas about what Western movies should be like. Clint Eastwood said that High Plains Drifter is like a story with a message. It is not really about what happened to settlers or what they did. The stranger in High Plains Drifter is like a symbol of guilt that people tried to forget. It comes back to haunt them. John Wayne had an idea about High Plains Drifter. He thought it was a Western movie that did not have the same values that he believed in and made movies about. They did not talk about this in public. It showed that people from different times think differently about what is right and wrong. Clint Eastwood and John Wayne had thoughts about High Plains Drifter. Wayne was a symbol of the West, where heroes were honest and brave. He stood for what was right. People looked up to him. Eastwood came later, and his heroes were different. They were not perfect. Sometimes you were not sure what was right or wrong. This difference between them showed that the Western movie genre was changing. It was not that they did not like each other, it was just that they had ideas about what a hero should be. The movie High Plains Drifter did not get rid of the way of making Westerns, but it showed that there were many ways to tell a story about heroes. Western movies could have different kinds of heroes, not just one kind. The Western hero was seen in two ways by John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. John Wayne thought that a Western hero should be a way. He made movies during a time when people needed to feel safe. The characters John Wayne played made things right when they were wrong. It was easy to tell what was good and what was bad in his movies. People liked these stories because they were going through times. There was not a lot of money around. A big war had just ended. People were not sure what would happen next. John Wayne believed that Western movies should teach people to be brave and do the thing. He really believed in this. It was a big part of who John Wayne was. He thought that this type of music was a way to remember history and keep important values safe. The genre was important to him because it was a way to honor history and protect the values that matter. He wanted to use the genre to remember the past and make sure that people do not forget the values. The genre was a way for him to honor history. The Western movie scene was changing when Eastwood came into the picture. This was a time when people in America were wondering about the people in charge of the wars and the heroes. People were not so sure about things anymore. They had a lot of doubts. Western movies were not about being happy and celebrating, they were more about thinking deeply. Eastwood played characters who were quiet and did not always do the thing. They did not care what other people thought. When it came to justice, it was not always an ending. Eastwood wanted the movies to change with the people watching them. Eastwood thought about a letter he got from Wayne. He said they did not agree on things because they were from times, not because they did not like each other. Eastwood and Western movies were. Eastwood was okay with that. Wayne was about having a clear idea of what is right and wrong. He believed in being straightforward and honest. On the hand, Eastwood liked to question things and challenge people's thoughts. Eastwood thought that Wayne had a perspective because he was from a different time. Eastwood did not think that Wayne was wrong. He just thought that they saw things differently. Wayne represented a clear way of thinking, while Eastwood explored more complicated ideas. The Western movies that Wayne loved were meant to inspire people, while Eastwood's movies looked at whether those old stories mattered. What is really interesting is that both Wayne and Eastwood were very careful about what they said. They never said anything about each other in public or in interviews. They kept their disagreements to themselves, thought about them later with calm minds instead of being angry. This shows that they had respect for each other. At the time, people who watched movies were okay with stories that had complicated moral issues. The old kind of heroes were still around. Now there were also new characters who were not perfect and struggled with their feelings. Wayne and Eastwood were looking out for the tradition. They were coming at it from different angles. Wayne was trying to keep the ideals safe while Eastwood was pushing the boundaries to see how far things could go. This was their way of protecting the tradition of Wayne and Eastwood. They will catch up to us by the end of the day. Looking at these tracks, there are maybe some people who are following us. These tracks are a good sign that someone is behind us, and they will probably catch up to us by the end of the day, because these tracks are very clear. Eastwood never got mad in public, said anything bad. He just kept on working. This was the end of people talking about what would happen to the genre. The Western genre was the thing that people stopped discussing after Eastwood and the other person could not work together. As time went by, Eastwood did not change the story. Make Wayne's reaction sound worse than it was. When people asked him about the letter, later he talked about it in a respectful way. He said that Wayne was criticizing him because he really believed in what he was saying, not because he was trying to be mean. Wayne loved what Western movies were all about. He got defensive when he thought those things were being threatened. Eastwood said he felt honored that Wayne cared enough to take the time to write to him. The letter showed that Wayne thought of Eastwood as a filmmaker who was worth taking. Eastwood wanted to make it clear that he was never trying to hurt the tradition of movies or insult the people who settled the country. He wanted to explore the genre of music for a new generation. The genre is something that he really wanted to look into. He wanted to do this for the new generation. He felt that the genre was important for the new generation to know about. Clint Eastwood never said that the Western movies he made were better than others. They were just different. He thought that the movies John Wayne made and the ones he made could be enjoyed by people. Eastwood also knew that John Wayne was an important figure in American culture and that made it hard for people to accept change. When Eastwood made the movie Unforgiven, a lot of critics thought that it was changing the way people thought about Westerns. I can kill chickens if I really have to. I will make sure to keep those hogs that got the fever separate from the animals. I do not have any problem with doing that. The chickens and the hogs, like the chickens and the hogs that are sick, need to be taken care of. I will take care of the chickens and the hogs. Eastwood said the movie is really about violence, regret, and getting older. It is like what Wayne was worried about. The stories we tell and what happens because of them. When you think about it, Eastwood said that he and Wayne did not see eye to eye because they grew up in times. Wayne went through the Great Depression and World War II. Eastwood, on the hand, became a man during a time when people were questioning everything and politics were uncertain. The Western movie did not start with Clint Eastwood. It did not stop with John Wayne. These Westerns went through the hands of both Clint Eastwood and John Wayne. They were changed by what these men believed in. Clint Eastwood and John Wayne each walked the path, but they went in different directions. There was not one person who won or one person who lost. There were two people, Clint Eastwood and John Wayne, who stood up for what they believed in. Now the question turns to the audience watching a Western film. Do you look for comfort or challenge, certainty or reflection? Do you prefer the clarity of the past or the complexity of revision? Or do both have value, depending on the moment? The truth Eastwood shared about John Wayne is ultimately about respect. Legends do not need to agree to matter. They only need to stand their ground. And sometimes the distance between those positions creates the most enduring stories.